Yo, what's up? It's Jalen, and we're here with another video. And in this video, we're going to go over time and not really talk about the phenomena of time, but we're going to talk about existing within time and how that has looked like, throughout history. So let's get right into it. So, a lot of people, when it comes down to time, they label certain ideas of it, okay? And there's going to be certain pauses within this voice recording because I'm drinking a chocolate shake right now from freaking Baskin Robbins. But anyways, you have pre-modernity where with pre-modernity, time was within cycles. So, you had planting seasons and times within different religious systems. It was all dictated by cycles. Freaking spring equinox, summer solstice, autumn equinox, winter solstice. It's just cycles over and over and over and over and over again within the pre-modern world. Within the modern world, time is linear. So you can see the progression, like time is seen as a progression from point A to point B. So, this idea started here, then after this idea started here, then we had this, then we had that, and now this is how things have come to be. Now, all that still exists in a certain way. We're going to go over that way. But it doesn't exist in an immediate context. It doesn't exist in a personal level, right? Like, if I was living in the pre-modern world, cyclical history would be personal to me, right? Because, I would have, the civilization is very much linked to the cycles. I can see the rituals coming about right in front of me. In modern history, I can see linear history, and it affects me immediately, right? You have, bloodlines and things of that nature. So, you had this guy who lived in this time period. Now you have had this son. And now, after this son came about, now you're here. So there is a linearness to time, in modernity. But now, all that stuff isn't the most immediate view of time when it comes to the everyday life. I think we can go back to Rust Coil, right? I've never seen that freaking show. I don't even know I don't know where Rust Coil comes from, what show he comes from. But I saw a video that was talking about, it had a whole bunch of clips of his freaking pessimistic stuff. And in one of his pessimistic stuff, it was a reference to Nietzsche saying that time is a flat circle. And we can look at the shape of a circle as a starting point to what we are talking about when it comes to being placed within different miles of time. So, for the, let's just say, whatchamacallits, for the pre-modern person, or the person that's living within an age of cycles, time obviously for them, when we look at circles and things like that, obviously it would be something akin to a circumference, right? The roundabout of things. So, where am I within the circumference of history, right? So, if I was born here, then, at this point, like the stars were in this position, in that position. They were at this form of a cycle. And if they return, then this will happen. So it's very much determined by different cycles within the world. Again, circumference. If we're looking at modernity, then it's from point A to point B. So, yes, you were within a, particular cycle, but, now you're, in this cycle, and you have to use, the past to sort of gain information about what to do next. So, for a person like that, it would pretty much be like diameter. From point A to point B, from one side of the circle to the next, from one point in time to another point in time. Versus with pre-modernity, it's where you are, where you yourself, the individual point is placed within a particular point in the structure of time, within that circumference. However, for the person living in today's world, our aspect of time isn't necessarily diameter. I think our aspect of time would be a lot more closer to radius, right? Would be a lot closer to radius, where we're not placed within a cycle, neither are we placed within any meaningful connections to the past, in the modern world. Y'all know how I feel about culture and race and tradition and all that sort of stuff. Y'all know that I feel like a lot of the current manifestations of culture and tradition are not as meaningful as they used to be, and they can't really provide any they can't really provide as much substance as they did when they existed in their prime. That's how I feel about it. If you've seen my Anchors video, then you know that already. However, you still exist in time, so you have to make a leap towards where you want to be placed within space and time, and that leap has to come from just your own being. It's not based upon a cyclical point in time. It's not based upon a point in time dictated by the past and a jump into the future. It's purely based upon you being within space and time itself, just as your own very being. It's literally just you. It's based upon you yourself as a propellant. You don't really have any other propellants. You're literally just cut off from everything within the world, And I guess I also talked about that with the Cosmicism video. A whole lot of major things in the world around you are happening away from you. They're happening... Hold on, guys. I gotta drink this chocolate shake while the ice cream is still hard. But anyways, they're placed away from you in a location where you can't really affect them. So you really are just by yourself, just cut off from all factors, cut off from all elements. You're just within your own solitude. So you have to make choices within your own solitude. Like, time has sort of placed you in a stasis to where, you're just in your own bubble. Versus, in those other areas of time, there were no bubbles. You're freaking you're this guy. Ah, shucks. You're this person, son of yada yada yada. I just cut that person off. Hold on. Fuck. Hold on, guys. Y'all know that I do these recordings while I'm driving, so a lot of times I'll be having to focus on the road and focus on what I'll be talking about. But again, with pre-modernity, it's, you're this person because you were born into this cycle. With modernity, it's you were this person because, this is the past. And since this is the past, this is probably going to be the future, right? Because with modernity, you're already on one side of the circle. You just got to get to the other side, and it's easy. But with our current age, you're not within any, like your reference isn't a point in time. Like your reference is just you. Like you're inside the circle, which makes things, I guess you could say, a lot more interesting, makes things a lot more harder. It just depends on the temperament of the person. But that's just the way that things are. I think Thelema kind of hit the nail on the head with like the symbols a lot of times, where you have Nuit being like a circle, Hadid being a point, and then, Harpocrat being like he's the solar symbol. So it's a dot within a circle. I think that's a very deep symbol when we're really thinking about what we're talking about here. And, Harpocrat being the harbinger of the new Aeon. If Harpocrat is the harbinger of the new Aeon, then that adds more seriousness to what I'm saying, because that might be the phenomenology of how we experience history. In our I don't even know if it's postmodern anymore, because people really want new things now. People really want another way of living. They're kind of sick and tired of critiquing modernity. We've kind of critiqued modernity into the we've critiqued it into the ground, to the point to where now if you critique it, you're just critiquing it. You know what I mean? Like you're not creating more space for innovativeness. You're literally just pounding a hammer into gravel dust. Like it's already dead. You don't gotta pound it anymore. Like what are you necessarily going to do now? Right? Postmodernity is it's essentially, again, it's the destruction of grand narratives. So if we're going back to our circle analogy, it's the destruction of diameters. Like everything that we've thought about, our connection to other points within the circle, is wrong. So, we either have to go back to a circular way of life, just sort of go back to just being within the circumference, or we have to take the challenge of relying on our own being and coming up with answers from our own selves, not from, any grand narratives. And paradoxically, that will lead to the construction of new grand narratives. Again, meta-modernity, it's post-modernity targeted towards post-modernity. So it's the destruction of post-modernity. It's sort of trying to eliminate, the need for deconstruction, trying to get rid of deconstruction, trying to create substantiality from out of nowhere. Not from any theoretical framework, just from, again, being itself. And I don't know. I think that's very interesting. This idea literally popped up out of nowhere. I don't know where the frick this idea popped up out of, honestly. Guys, I don't smoke. I don't drink. Well, I do drink, but it's been months since I have drunk. And when I do drink, I only drink like a couple shots, maybe like 2 or 3 shots. So, not a heavy drinker. But safe to say, I don't get inebriated enough to where when transmissions come, they come from out of nowhere. Like if a transmission comes, then freaking it just comes. And I can't really explain why. So anyways, that's my understanding of time. you guys rocked with it, then cool. Anyways, peace out, man.